Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2023, and I just came from a funeral just now, and I left feeling heavy. Um, the preacher slash funeral director slash musical arranger really made me think, as he pretty much was the MC for the services. He read a scripture, Psalms 23, and he also mentioned that it's time that we get our houses in order. And when he said that, I was thinking about all the things in my life that are uncertain, that are unsure, that are conflicted, that are in disarray. And I came to the conclusion that it's time for me to get my house in order. And what does that mean exactly? That means that it's time for me to actually figure out what God requires of me and actually begin to take the necessary steps on doing His will and not my own. And is that easy? No, it's not. I've been grappling with that, that conundrum for the longest. And I was thinking a lot about how I've wasted so much time in the gay life, trying my best to be loved, trying my best to find friendship, trying my best to find identity, the lost identity that I basically lost when my father left. I spent my early 20s and 30s looking for a daddy, looking for my father, looking for so many different things, looking for connection with men. And truth be told, I didn't find it. I found a bunch of broken men who basically were just going around breaking each other, breaking one another because they just didn't know how to be with men. They didn't know how to love a man. Truth is, many of us gay men, we really have no experience on how to love a man. If it doesn't involve seduction, if it doesn't involve attraction or allure, we don't know how to really be with men. Many of us don't even know how to be with ourselves. And I think we struggle with a conflicted identity that we drown out in parties and drugs and sex and alcohol. And really, all those things are just a mask. All those things are just used as a pain reliever to really, really just avoid dealing with the reality that we struggle with our male identities. A lot of us grew up in homes where being a man was a cautionary tale and not something to aspire to. We grew up in homes where being a man was something to apologize for and feel bad about. At least I know I grew up in a home like that. I grew up in a home where my masculinity was seen as a threat, was seen as an impediment to my household. I had to pay for the sins of my father. You would oftentimes growing up hear, oh, you're just like your father, you're just like your father. And if your father was inattentive, if he was non-existent, if he was absent, being compared to him was always an insult. So it's kind of like your masculinity was an insult to the existence of your family. And many of us grow up feeling this way. We grow up feeling this way, and so we grow up to hate our male identities. And we betray those identities. We abandon those identities. We seek to be girls. We seek to act like women. We seek to pattern our emotions and our behavior after women. And a lot of this is unconscious, and a lot of it is conscious. And I think that in many ways we have not really discovered the beauty of masculinity and what it means to be a real man. We were always told that our masculinity was an insult to the feminine mystique, how we were oppressors and abusers. And so I know me personally, I don't want to grow up to be like my father. I didn't want to grow up to be like him. I didn't want to grow up to be somebody that ran away from responsibility. I didn't want to grow up to be a person that was not able to tolerate difficulty. My father, he struggled with responsibility, and I know he had his own trauma history, but he really struggled to be present, and he struggled with deep, deep guilt and shame. And I think he left that legacy within me for a minute. I entered into this life, gay life, looking for him, looking for that male connection, looking to connect with my own male identity. And I took so many different wrong turns trying to do that. And I was thinking this funeral really put me in a mindset, in a pensive mindset, because I realized that, I need to get my house in order. I need to come to terms with who I am as a man and really embrace that and really, really lean into that. I think many of us have abandoned ourselves. We've learned how to betray ourselves. When you grow up in a female dominated home, a single parent household, you learn as a boy early on how to abandon your male identity. You learn how to leave it put up on the shelf. There will be times when I would sit down to pee because I was so afraid that other people would hear me pee and know that I was a boy, know that I was a man, and would hate me for it. What is that about? And so I would sit down on the toilet to pee. Or I would pee just around the rim so that way I don't make a sound. I can keep my masculinity down, quiet it. When I should have been trying to turn it up, But I think many men, many young boys, they do this in one shape or another. They go into themselves. They don't show their feelings as men. They hide behind this veneer. But inside every man is a young boy who has not been heard, who has not been seen, who has not been listened to, who has not been offered tenderness. There's so many boys who are tall and who are broad-shouldered and who are husky. And just because of their physical appearance, people think that they don't need tenderness, kindness. And so they're oftentimes dealt with a hard hand, They don't get a velvet glove. They get an iron fist. Especially our black boys and men. Our black boys and men, we are dealt with an iron fist. We don't get a velvet glove. And so this funeral really made me think about this life and how oftentimes, the boys and men would try to turn us into cum rags and human cum dumpsters. They don't want to dignify us with a date. No. They just want to use us. And the thing about gay life is that it glorifies devastation. It glorifies being broken. It glorifies being destroyed. You have guys out there talking about destroy my whole. Destroy my whole. Destroy me. They want to be destroyed. And they romanticize being destroyed. And so what type of mentality romanticizes being destroyed? The type of mentality that doesn't see itself as worthwhile or worthy, that struggles with low self-worth, that struggle with feelings of inferiority and inadequacy. When you don't mind putting yourself at risk and seeing risk as aphrodisiac, there's an issue with that. When you don't mind putting yourself on the chopping block and being some man's cum dumpster, there's an issue with that. There's something inside the psyche that's broken, that's wounded. Because we don't come into this world wanting to be used up. We don't want to be used up. We want to be loved. But oftentimes, life will try to teach us that in order to be loved, we have to be willing to be used. In order to be appreciated, we have to be willing to be subordinate, you know, and excessively submissive in order to be loved, docile. We have to tone ourselves down, and that's not what we were created to do. We were created to be reflections of God's glory. God does not want us to turn ourselves down. He wants us to turn ourselves up and to amplify his gifts and his talents that he bestowed upon us. He doesn't want us to I guess, be buried in silence. He doesn't want that. And that's what many men and young boys have done. We buried ourselves into early graves in our childhood, and all we're doing is now just walking around like zombies, walking around like the living dead. How many of our masculine identities have been buried early? How many of our masculine identities have been buried prematurely? And now we're walking around here trying to find the lost men that we once were. It's just crazy. It's real crazy when I think about it. And so I'm thinking about, what does it mean to get your house in order? It means reclaiming your male identity. That's the identity. When you talk about identity, we always talk about, well, I was born this way. We were born as men, endowed with certain responsibilities that we shirked because of how we perceived our own masculinity. We perceived our own masculinity as a burden, as something to apologize for, and that's not the truth. See, we bought the lie. So many of it, I bought the lie for years, and I'm just waking up to the truth. The scabs are falling off my eyes, and I'm waking up to the truth. I believed and bought a lie that felt so good and felt like it was the truth, because initially it addressed all my so-called wounds. It paired well with my wounds. But the thing about it is this: do you want to keep on living and playing out a wounded identity, or do you want healing? Because I think a lot of the things that are synonymous with gay life, they are compatible with our wounds. They play very well with our wounds and our scars and our bruises. But if we want to move beyond being wounded individuals and glorifying a wounded identity, we have to basically be willing to do something different. A lot of people, they love their wounded identity. They don't want to part with it because, for one, it gets them attention. And there's a lot of secondary benefits, attention, it gets them love, it allows them to be reckless, and a lot of people are looking for reasons not to care anymore. So, their wounds allow them this reason. Oh, well, I've been hurt before. My dad left, so yeah, this is why I'm doing this, and yeah, this is my path. This is my journey. This is, this is what, They feel like they're powerless, but the thing about it is you are responsible for your healing. You may not have been responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for your healing. And that's the reality. We are responsible for our own healing. We have to take the bull by the horns, because the thing about it is this: if you continue to live in your wounds and let others play in your wounds, what ultimately will happen is you will be a casualty as a result of your wounds. I see so many young boys and men casualties of their wounds. Casualties, dying early deaths, overdosing, HIV, AIDS, dying prematurely, careless, reckless, just throwing their lives away, going to these dark spaces, bathhouses, dark clubs, bathrooms, having sex, risking it all, not caring. And the thing about it is, when you see death up close, the way I saw death today, how there's a stillness, how you're like in suspended animation. You can no longer affect change. You can no longer do anything that you enjoy. You can no longer live life. You can no longer enjoy the beauty of breathing. You can no longer enjoy a beautiful sunset. You can no longer, you're just still. Still. And while initially, if you're depressed, that might seem like relief, But there's a whole lot of life left to live, and it's beautiful. There is a beautiful life out there waiting for us, and we're sitting here. We're sitting here, letting it pass us by, chasing after things that really mean nothing in the end. Chasing after people that we will never be survived by. I looked at the program today. I opened it up. And the person who died, they were survived by so many people that loved them. How many of us in the gay community will be survived by people that love us? How many of us in the gay community will be survived by people that genuinely care about us? Who will you be survived by? At the end of your life, who will you be survived by? Who will go on to carry the legacy of your love? That's important. Who did you mean the most to in this world? Who did you matter to? Who did you matter to? Did what you invest in while you were alive matter? Did it matter? Picture yourself dead in a box, you looking down on yourself. Did what you once think mattered matter? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Like Linkin Park, in the end, it doesn't even matter. What matters right now are the people that love and care about you. What matters is the love that you give to others, the investments that you make in other people, the goodness and the kindness that you offer. Those are the things that matter. These material things, they don't matter. These issues, these small, minute issues, these tangles and conflicts, in the grand scheme of things, they don't matter. What matters are the people that love you, the people you love, the people that are making investments in you, the people you are investing in. Those are the things that matter. Think about who you will be survived by once you die. Who will you be survived by? Think about it. Will you be survived by the guys who you let turn you into a cum dumpster? Will you be survived by the guys who are willing to let you be their cum rag? Will you be survived by the guys who never dignified you with a date or real love, but only wanted to call you up when they were horny, when they wanted to get this stuff out? Think about these things. Because when you put that in perspective, you realize that it ain't worth it. Because when you're younger, all you're thinking about is, I want to get off. I'm horny and I want to get off and I want to be relieved, right? But as you realize that all this relief is just added burdens on your spirit, all this temporary enjoyment of sin is just accruing a debt, an emotional debt that you will have to pay later on. But of course, you don't see that initially. I didn't see it. I didn't see the emotional debt that was being incurred as a result of casual sex, as a result of recklessness. I didn't see it. But now, as I mentioned before, the scabs are falling from my eyes and I'm waking up to the reality of things. And you start to see that, wait a minute, I'm incurring a debt on my soul and I don't even know it. In my attempt to get relief, to have fun, I'm incurring a debt that I will later on be responsible for. And what is that debt? That debt is your spirit, your burdened spirit. There's so many people with depressed moods, anxiety, don't know where it came from. Their body is a haunted house full of all the ghosts that they let these people put into their body. And they didn't even know it. Because it came off as this is something pleasurable, this is relief. But that's the thing. Relief can look a lot like emotional bondage when you really don't have a spiritual eye. And vice versa. Emotional bondage can look a lot like relief. It can look a lot like relief and fun when you don't see the sight unseen. when you don't turn the physical world inside out and begin to really analyze and interrogate. We oftentimes do not interrogate the spirit world. We don't interrogate it. And I'm not talking about through Ouija boards and all those crazy demonic things. No, we don't interrogate our own spirits, our own centers. We don't interrogate that enough. We're too busy looking for the physical pleasures. And those physical pleasures, they can be very, very blinding. They could blind us to the truth. But you have to learn how to turn the physical world inside out and really see what's behind the veil. What is behind the veil? We all wear the veil, but what's behind it? What is behind the veil? Because when you see what's behind the veil, you definitely move different. And I think right now, the veil is lifting. And when the veil starts to lift, you'll notice that you're starting to get a little sadder because you were initially so disillusioned, you know? You're starting to wake up out of the illusion. And that's what happens. That's what happens. So, you know, this funeral today really just opened my eyes to another level of life. And I'm hoping that I can carry this with me so I can make better choices. Because it's time for better choices. We deserve better choices right now. We deserve to be happy. So I hope everybody out there feels the same, that they deserve happiness and not just the short-term enjoyment of sin, the temporary enjoyment of sin. So I'll leave y'all with that, and I hope that you definitely enjoy your day. Peace, y'all.